Well, two U.S. Navy sailors are behind bars tonight after allegedly sharing sensitive military information with China. The two servicemen are not linked, but both are accused of sending things like equipment manuals, sensitive documents, photos, and videos to the Chinese military. The Department of Justice says both men accepted bribes from Chinese intelligence officers. Now they're facing conspiracy charges. Joining us now to talk about the breach and what's next for these two men, Joel Rubin. He served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State to the Obama administration. Joel, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be with you, Nick.
Joel, I know hearing these type of things is not only disturbing to you, but disturbing to anyone who has worked closely with keeping our country and nation's secrets. Both of these men were born in China, but had been naturalized as U.S. citizens. Is China targeting young men who are now trying to get citizenship here in the U.S.?
So, Nick, first and foremost, to your point, it's really distressing to see when people obtain security clearances that they then violate those clearances, violate the trust of the American people, and spy on the United States with that access that they were given as a privilege. And so that is something that needs to be cracked down on repetitively. And it's good that they were caught, but it's really troubling that they were able to get away with this. Now, I'm not so worried about naturalized citizens because American citizens, native-born American citizens get trapped, get ensnared in these kinds of diabolical activities as well. But China, in the bigger picture, is certainly engaged in active espionage in the United States and is using every possible tool it can at its disposal, and clearly found a couple of young men that were vulnerable to its entreaties, and it did get information it should not have had.
And Joel, every time I hear about these stories, they just really bother me because I feel like there's just so much around it. And you talked about even American-born citizens. I immediately thought about Texera in Massachusetts. So we know that it definitely happens. Should either of these men have been able to access and share the information they're accused of sharing, or is that an oversight on the U.S. military's part?
I mean, there really needs to be a rethink about who actually has access to this kind of classified information. It seems like we're getting consistent drumbeat of leaks and of sharing of classified information, of spying against the United States by early 20-somethings. And these are oftentimes people who are lower on the pecking order in terms of the chain of command decision-making, but they have access to a treasure trove of information that a foreign government will want to have its hands on and pull that information in and piece it together with other kinds of information and really get a map of, for example, in the case of China and the naval fleet, get a sense of what it is that we have in our naval assets in the Pacific, and that's dangerous. So there needs to be a deeper think, quite frankly, about who is getting access, and also a lot more surveillance on those who do have access. The idea of Teixeira just taking information home with him, bringing it home, taking photographs of it, it's unacceptable. It's ridiculous. It should not have happened.
And then sharing it over a gaming system, all of that.
For months.
For months. It's just so frustrating. How does that case compare? When we talk about these young men in the Navy compared to the intelligence secrets leaked by Texera earlier this year?
From what I gather from public sourcing, of course, it sounds like they were engaged in repetitive sharing of information they had for over a year plus directly with Chinese intelligence officers. That's very troubling. The Teixeira incident as well is very troubling because he was putting it online and in the gaming platform for multiple months, but not necessarily handing it off to a handler who was then bringing it back home to Moscow or to Beijing. So I think there's going to be a full assessment of what they actually provided, what they gave. And you can tell by the public statements from the Navy, they are none too pleased and very concerned about how this went straight into Chinese intelligence hands.
And I think what bothers me most in all of this, not only the violation of trust, but the number of lives that they put at risk by sharing sensitive information. Joel Rubin, thanks so much for being here this evening.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.